Why don't
Yeah.
you introduce yourself a little and about your friend journey from the beginning, like in brief, and then I'll ask you questions.
Okay. So my name is Joshua. I studied French for about a year. Well, I studied French in school, in high school, for about 2 years, and then kind of forgot everything, and then came back when I needed to learn my French again for the PR, for the TCF exam. And so, yeah, started off by trying Duolingo for a bit. Did a couple months of that and realized I was not going anywhere. I'm a very much like a self-study kind of person, so I thought, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I can watch YouTube videos and like figure it out. But I realized the hardest thing for me was the one was direction. Like I did not know where to start and where to go, but was the discipline. If I don't have someone kind of pushing me and like making me sit every day, I'll find an excuse and like find something else to take up my time. And so I realized I wasn't consistent enough. And then I thought it would be helpful if I had like a teacher, like an authority figure to kind of guide me. And so, yeah, I started doing a bunch of research on classes and institutes. And yeah, I kind of came across this one as one of my options. And honestly, I made a decision based on some reviews and some, uh, honestly, the website, right? Like I was trying to see which one looked the most legit. And yeah, this one, this one seemed the most legit to me. So yeah, I thought, why not try it? And um, I think I saw Brihmati ma'am's review on some website, and then also saw her being a teacher. So some reason that intrigued me. I was like, oh, like she was a student and then she became a teacher, something like that. And so yeah, I signed up for it. I did the evaluation test. I was hoping to skip a couple levels. Did
Mm.
not end up skipping any levels,
Oh,
but it was good. It was good. I wanted to. I knew I should start from the beginning. And so yeah. Okay. So you said to ask, say in brief. I'm going in detail now, so I'll
no,
stop
no,
here.
this is good. No, you can continue. It's fine. It's your
Okay.
interview.
Yeah. So then I started the classes from scratch. I knew I would feel better, like doing a comprehensive sort of thing. And so we started
Mm-hmm.
with A1, and well, honestly, the beginning of A1 was very easy because I already like learned everything before. And so yeah, I was kind of breezing through A1, and so I was thinking, when I start doing stuff I've not done before, that's kind of when I'll get serious. So first couple classes, I really wasn't revising or wasn't taking it too seriously. And then at one point, and that's, I think that's like the biggest thing for me, was having that mindset from the beginning of, oh, when it gets hard, I'll take it seriously. I wish I had taken it seriously from the beginning, because it's very hard to shift into that. So yeah, like one random day, suddenly I find myself like behind like the portion, and I'm like, I should have revised yesterday. And then, the next day I should have, even more stuff piles up. And obviously you got your own life, work, all of that.
Mm.
So the moment you fall behind, and there's no really like time to catch up here with the classes, everything's going at a pretty quick pace. And I always told myself, oh, like I'll take some time to catch up at some point, maybe after A1 or whatever. And you don't realize you only get like 1 or 2 days most of the time between levels. So yeah, I felt like I was always behind. But A1 wasn't bad. A1 was still fairly easy. A2 as well wasn't bad, but I would say from A2 onwards, I started falling behind for sure.
Oh,
That's where I started to, yeah, not encounter new concepts, but concepts I never clearly learned when I was a kid. So the
really?
same problems would start to come up. And I definitely did not practice the basic verbs enough. So yeah, that conjugation haunted me until B2. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely wish I put in more time and repetition. I think that's the main thing. Yeah, I thought I could just understand it, but it's definitely repetition. That's the way to get them. Anyways, yeah, I kind of struggled my way through A2, but I still felt like, maybe I was about there, comparatively speaking. And then B1 started. And then B1 was when it like really stepped up for me. And yeah, I remember because I think A1 and A2 was with Brihmati ma'am, right? And then B1 was the first time I started learning with you. And then the shift also in terms of teaching styles, because we weren't
Yeah.
speaking as much. And they went from like almost no speaking in French. So
Mhm.
that was
yeah, starting of B1. I'd say for me, B1 was a big jump because that's when I first started speaking in French, and having almost no exposure to speaking French, it was definitely a step up, like to speaking purely in French, right? But I think that was the thing that made the most difference for me. The first couple days, or maybe even first couple of weeks, were very painful, very difficult. But yeah, I think the fact that you forced us to like get to that tough period, yeah, suddenly one of those weeks I found myself being able to communicate in French, and that was you need to keep having these milestones in the journey that motivate you, because otherwise, yeah, you feel so helpless most of the time, and then you do that one thing where you thought you'd never be able to get to that point, but then you do it and you're like, okay, maybe I do have some hope after all. Yeah, that's what it felt like. The biggest like boost forward was being able to speak and communicate my ideas in French. um, yeah, and that's something I wish I continued to do a little bit more outside of class earlier. It's something I used to do a lot towards the end, of my like after B2. But it's something I wish I kept trying more outside of class, just to like keep practicing. But yeah, reading the text, that also helped a lot of exposure
Mm.
to new language. Um, yeah, it was definitely very challenging because you obviously told us not to, use AI or Google Translate. So it's very challenging to understand some text, but obviously very helpful when you're just used to not understanding the whole, text, and then just like trying to figure out bits and pieces and put them
Still
together.
move on, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's something. Obviously, in the moment, you're like, no, like I can't do this. It doesn't make sense. It's not helping. And then when you go for the exam and you're put in that situation, you're like, okay, I'm glad, I did try, and yeah, figure things out, because now that's the kind of mentality or perspective that I'm automatically going to. So
Mm.
yeah, B1, quite a challenge. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I at the end when I gave my B1 exam, I passed, but I said I don't want to go to B2. I don't think I deserve to be there, and I tried to not go to the next batch, but it was the only timing that worked for me. And the next, like, there weren't other 5:30 a.m. batches, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, I'll continue. So came back to B2 very reluctantly, but funny enough, yeah, the fact that, and that's the funny part about the whole journey, is like every time you're like, one week you're at your lowest and you're like, I don't deserve to be here, and then the next week suddenly you're like, oh, I'm actually surprising myself with how much I know and how much I can do. Yeah, it was very, very dependent on certain classes, certain themes, right? Like for me, I was very much into sports, and so I was very comfortable with ideas and themes that spoke about
Mm.
sports. But for something like the kitchen, I was very much out of my depth. So yeah, it really depends. Some classes you can have a horrible class, and the next one you can have a great class. So I think getting used to that idea as well took me some time to get comfortable with the idea of having a bad class, and then just being okay
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, and I'd say overall, I really got serious around B2, and starting to put in like 3-4 hours a day, only around like B2 time, and yeah, that's when it gets motivating, because now you're like, okay, I actually do have command of the language. I can write, speak, read, communicate my ideas, generally speaking. And then that's along the time, I think, at least for me, I don't know if most people find it. We start picking up on certain like commonalities, and you're like, okay, you know, this is how you usually open up an idea, and like you start learning these like phrases and ways of putting sentences together that make you sound a little bit more fluent, a little bit more capable of speaking
Mm.
French. Yeah, and that's B2 is when like I went from making like itty bitty sentences that were just like a noun, a verb, or that kind of thing, to slightly more intricate ideas with a little bit more nuance, a little bit higher vocabulary, and yeah, that's another great milestone I feel, where I went from like speaking like a 3-year-old child to actually communicating like an adult. And yeah, it was a really good feeling. And then towards the end, yeah, once I finished B2 and started doing the tests, that's when things got really serious for me. And it was like now I know pretty much the format of what I'm going to be giving. And so it was very specific, very intentional preparation.
Mm.
And I could set up a more rigorous structure. So I would literally spend at least 4 hours a day um, on each of the four skills plus an hour of class, where we, yeah. And so I was putting in, yeah, like really, really good practice every single day and building up on the same or like similar ideas. And so by the end of it, because I would templatize certain things, especially the speaking, I would have they would call it passepartout, like phrases that could do that could fit in any and every theme or every topic. You just have to tweak certain minor
Yeah.
things, but that make you sound very proficient. So I think those really helped. And the earlier that you can get those into your vocabulary and the earlier that you can get familiar with those kind of sentence structures, the more comfortable you'll get with using them down the line. And the biggest problem for me, I think one of the hardest was speaking, right? Like speaking, I found it so hard because like I'd get to a certain point and then I would blank. And the harder I try to think of saying something, the worse it gets. Like I just cannot come up with anything. And so
Mm.
eventually I would have these like starter phrases where you could use them in any topic and then it'll jumpstart ideas, or have
Yeah.
like I use AI a lot for this where I would be like, give me frameworks that I can use to continue talking until the time runs out. And yeah, that like just non-stop practice, especially listening. That was a big one where I had this whole like sheet of like, okay, if my goal is to get to CLB 7, what scores am I getting every single day? And I would literally like graph it out and see like, am I trending up or am I kind of staying the same? And so yeah, for a long time, for the like, first half of my preparation, is like a month preparation that I had. The first half was really bad. I was like 50, 60 points off of CLB 7. And then like all of a sudden, and the thing is, I would put listening towards the end of my little session.
Day.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
sleepy, I'm hungry. Half the time, like I'm listening to the audio, but like I'm munching on chips, so I can't even like hear the audio. And like I'd just fall asleep so many sessions, like midway through, and I'm just like out, and I wake up and like my time's run out, and then it's saying I got like a big 200 points, and so I realized, okay, this is not working out. So I think I heard one of your other students talk about how he structured his lessons and how he would put listening first because that requires the most mental like capacity. So okay, that's a great idea. Like I should do that because I'm having that issue. So that made a big difference for me. Where now that I started with listening first, because you're like French exhausted by the end of the day, but
Yeah.
at least yeah, at the beginning, you're more ready to absorb, you're more attentive, and you're picking up on every little like idea. And literally it's almost like I could see the graph, right? Like it spiked one day and I got to C1 that day. And I was like, I didn't
Oh.
even need C1, but I got to C1. And then ever since that day, like it always stayed above B2. So yeah, that was another big milestone for me where I went from thinking there's literally no way I can possibly get to where I need to be in time to like all of a sudden one day I'm like, okay, I can do this now. um and then yeah, from there it was just practice, practice, practice. And you eventually get confidence where you're like, if I could do this enough times in practice, surely I can do close to this when it comes to the real exam. And then finally, yeah, I came to the day of the exam. It was definitely challenging, but I got through. Surprisingly, at least for me, I got through everything with the score I needed. When I got my results, the only thing that I didn't get was writing. Of all things, that was probably the thing I was most confident in. But towards the end, when I was doing a lot of preparation, especially with like I would ask it to like
Mm.
score me, and it would always give me a B1, almost B2, saying that your ideas are good, but there's too many simple mistakes with conjugation, with like spelling. And so in my head, I was like, okay, maybe I'm trying to overdo it because every time I would write, I would try to introduce a new phrase, a new word, something I wasn't confident with. And I was like, maybe I'm trying to overdo it. Maybe
Mm.
the simpler my ideas are and the more elegant I am, the better that'll be. And I
Yeah.
think in the exam, every time I wrote a word, I would second guess myself. I was like, is this the right spelling? Should I? And if I had a doubt, I would just erase the word and I'd find a way to write it simpler enough. But like I'm 100% confident that's the right conjugation, that's the right spelling. And I started to do that with all my ideas. Like I really wrote a whole thing, went back and changed more than half of it.
Mm.
And yeah, I think in the end, it was too simple. I messed up by 1 point on writing. And so, yeah, that's the only downside to the whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole journey summarized.
Well, that was amazing. And this gives me, like, I recall now that, you were, I could feel that you were really putting in the hours during our B2.
Yeah.
But I really wish you would have told me, what you were feeling at that time. So I could have, helped you out with that as well.
Yeah, but I feel like it's one of those things where you kind of have to like figure it out yourself a little bit. And so I knew it was me at the end of the day, right? Like nobody can come and give me the answers. Nobody can come and put that knowledge into my head. It's just time and effort that I had to put in that I kept putting off. And I'm always like that. Like even with like CBSE boards and everything, I'd always put off studying till the last minute. And I knew this was gonna come back to bite me, and it did. But yeah, I'm just a stubborn fellow like that. Yeah.
No, but well, it worked out. So I'm glad that you stuck with it.
Yeah, and I
So
think
yeah,
definitely makes you feel like, wow, okay, if I could do this, then everything else now suddenly seems so much easier. It's
yeah.
kind of like proving to yourself, like, okay, I could do it if I wanted to. So yeah,
This is such a, heartwarming story for me. I'm very happy to hear that. Could tell me about your exam day and how you were feeling. How was the center? Where was your center? What was that?
yeah. So my center was in North York, and
Mm.
mine was one of the first sessions of the day. And so I went to the exam hall. I literally had my book in my hand the whole time. It was like an hour journey for me, and so I kept like preparing nonstop. And the first thing for me was speaking. So when I got to the center, I tried speaking with everyone in French and just trying to get familiar with speaking again. Just obviously, I was doing a lot of practice the night before, the day before, but it's like you just have to be in that mindset to like switch on, to
Mm.
stay switched on. And so yeah, got in, started with going into the exam hall to take a picture and all the other formalities, and everything's in French. Like even instructions, them giving you, it's all going to be in French. So yeah, it caught me a little off guard because yeah, like they don't speak easy to you. They speak as they would to their colleagues, and so yeah, it does catch you a little off guard, the pace and the accent maybe. But obviously you can ask them to clarify, and they will. So yeah, we started off with just they give you a piece of paper, or they'll explain everything to you. And so we started off with speaking, and you'll have to forgive me. I might be forgetting things. It's been a while, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we started off with introduction, and that was something I had prepared endlessly because I knew for sure like this is literally what I'm going to have to say. So I kind of knew it word for word. Um, Somehow though, on the day off, while I was saying it, I ended up kind of forgetting exactly the words and I didn't want to seem like I by hearted it. And so yeah, I was able to speak and introduce myself, even though I missed a couple details and I put in a couple details that I didn't learn. But when you're like comfortable enough and confident enough, then it shouldn't be a problem. And you should be like, to me, I knew that was going to happen. I knew the nerves were going to get to me and I would forget, and I would have to come up with something on the spot. So just be prepared with that, I would say. And yeah, introduction went really well. So I was really happy. Like, it's important to start off well, because yeah, starting off bad and then, kind of affects the other two tasks and shakes your confidence a little bit. And then you start thinking, oh, did I say the right thing? Did I say the wrong thing? And then your mind's not in the task. So yeah, that was a big one for me. The second task as well um, went pretty well. So, sorry, could you remind me what the second task was?
It's a conversation,
Um,
the dialogue.
Yeah, I did. Did they give you a topic?
Yeah, you didn't tell me what it was.
I think the topic was about learning. Yes, yeah. It was about lifelong learning. Is there like an age where you can't learn
That
anymore?
that should be your tashtwa.
Okay, then my Tashdar was oh, you're right. Yeah, Tashdar was asking for information, right?
Mm.
It was like this is my friend. The examiner was my friend, and I'm asking for information about a winter trip that I want to take. So asking about the different winter activities, the prices, the location, all of that stuff.
Mm.
That one caught me a little bit off guard. I hadn't actually prepared for specifically winter activities. So for me, the vocabulary, the winter sport specific vocabulary was lacking a little bit. So
Mm.
I was confident with sports, but I realized like you do need winter sport specific vocabulary. So I tried my best to get around it, but yeah, that kind of shook my confidence a little bit, especially because I knew that she was not going to give me straight answers, and I'd have to kind of fish the answers out. And so we were talking about, like, I asked a question about price, and she was saying it depends. And I was like, okay, this is one of those opportunities where she wants me to, clarify further. So then I asked, and she's like, no, like, I can't tell you a price. Like, it depends on what you want. So I said, okay, what if
Mm.
I want this? And then she's like, yeah, it depends. And I'm like, okay, she's really not giving me an answer. Am I so like, does she want me to go to another topic, or does she want me to ask more clarifying questions? So I kind of went to another topic and then came back to this because I was like, yeah, she hasn't given me a price. I'm supposed to get the price out of her. So I'm trying to go deeper and deeper. And yeah, I spent a lot of time, but she never ended up really giving me, she's being very vague about the whole thing. Um, and so yeah, I was in my mind, like in my head, I was kind of questioning, am I supposed to keep going, not keep going? I'm spending way too long asking about price.
Yeah.
Eventually I kind of gave up, and I feel like I asked enough questions to, but yeah, she didn't want to give me a number. And so then um, and then I spent a little bit too long, kind of, because I didn't have anything else to talk about. Kind of kept repeating the same things, but not for too much longer. And then we went to Tashtwa, and that one was about lifelong learning. Can you be a lifelong learner? And honestly, Tashtwa was probably the, out of everything, out of all the four skills, like this was the one skill, the one exercise that I practiced the most, because I was just most nervous about this one. So I started speaking, and I feel like I spoke really well, but I didn't quite reach the time limit. I spoke kind of fast, and um, so there was this format in my head that I had, right, where you go through like a specific structure, and you're not supposed to go back, like go like to a positive and then a negative and then a positive again.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in the moment I got a little bit nervous, and I only did like one positive. I went to a negative, and then I was like, oh, I can't go back to a positive again. And so I was like, okay, I'll just continue. But then I was like, I don't have enough material. Like, the bulk of my material was the positives.
Negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you concluded.
Yeah, I kind of spoke for like whatever I had left, and then I realized like I have too much time left at the end. So I think I had like about a minute almost left. And she was trying to hint to me, like, she didn't say it, but she was like, we have more time, keep
Acting it
going.
out. Okay.
And so I was like, okay, like, and then I kind of reiterated my points, tried to put in something new. And I was like, okay, and still things, I didn't know how much time I actually had left. So I spoke a little bit more. I thought, okay, that should be enough. And then she still goes, after I'm done the second time, she's like, we still have more time, like, continue. And I'm kind of flustered now because I was like, I don't have anything else to talk about. Like, I've kind of concluded already. It feels weird to go back and talk about more things. So then she asked me a question. She
Hmm.
asked me, do you have any examples? And so then I was like, oh, like, yeah, sure. Like, my brother, he went back to school after a while, and he never stops learning and that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, that should do it. And then again she goes, still have more time.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, no. And then I was like, I don't have anything else to say. Like, And she's like, do you have other examples? And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna lie at this point. So I was like, yeah, my dad loves to learn, and like kind of just made up some stuff about that. Because at the end of the day, I realized like I don't know why I'm trying to fish in my head for real stories. Like, it just has to be French. It doesn't matter what the story
Yeah.
is. So yeah, ended up kind of speaking about my dad. And once I realized I don't have to tell true stories, I kind of was able to speak as much as I needed to. And then we kind of finished off that task when the time was done. And then after speaking, and speaking was like 9:30 in the morning for me, and got over pretty quick at like 9. It was like 20 minutes. So by before 10, I was done with my speaking. So I felt pretty good about that, and there were a lot of students out in the hallway. Um, After I came back, and I felt like a celebrity. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, what did they ask you? How was it? Were they like nice? Were they mean?" And so obviously like chatted a lot with everyone outside, and
Mm.
then had a long break. I think it was like 2 or 3 hours. So we went out, got
Yeah.
like lunch, and then I had the reading and writing. Those were together, and those were everybody. So the way they had structured it was they stagger people for speaking throughout the day, and then reading and writing was everyone together at one point.
Yeah.
And so sorry, reading and listening and writing, all of it, the rest was together. So there were certain people that had speaking at like noon, and then like all the other three right after. But for me, I had to come like 3 hours earlier, do the thing, and then wait the whole day. But anyway, so then we went into the different. I was listening first, and so I was pretty happy with my listening because practice a lot. So there were definitely a good number of audios that I'd heard before, but then enough, like I'd done enough practice too where I was like, even if I get all brand new audios, I'm pretty comfortable. And so
Nice.
uh, I will say that listening wasn't too bad at all. Like I finished it and I was pretty confident. And finished off listening, and then I think the next thing was reading. Was the reading section. And reading is something that can be difficult. Some days it's very
Yeah.
easy, some days it's very hard. And it's something that I had gotten very used to because I practiced so much, that I was like, okay, the main thing for me is to go through reading as quickly as possible. So I flew through the first pass at everything. Anything that I spent even like a little bit longer on, skipped it, went to the next thing, and just did the ones I was very confident in very quickly. And so I finished the whole thing, I think, in like half the time. So I had like another half, of the time to go back and go through everything again. And for me, I knew
Mm.
like the distribution of the point distribution and how valuable everything at the end is. And there were a lot of times in my practice where I didn't even get to the end, and I realized like I'm
Wow.
throwing 30 plus points away, because I just didn't even attempt, because it's just multiple choice.
Mm.
At the end of the day, you could get lucky and get
Yeah.
30 or 5 points for just guessing. And so because I did it, the practice, and some people have their own strategies. I found mine, the one that worked for me, based on going into practice every day, trying out something new, seeing what sticks. And so this strategy of going through everything and then coming back and revising was the thing that really worked for me, because on my second pass, I probably ended up changing half my answers. It was, I thought I'd change maybe one or two, but then rereading everything, suddenly it's like new words that I didn't understand before. I like
Yeah.
suddenly,
Now you understand.
I'm like, okay, they meant that, obviously. And like once I changed my answer, I'm like, how could I have put that answer? That was so silly of me. But I ended up changing like half my answers. And I was doing the math in my head, and I was like, if I just submitted it, I'm pretty sure I would have failed this, because once I did it, I looked at my score. I ended up getting like a C1 for that. But I did the math, and I was like, I would not have done well if I had submitted it.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that went for like a bathroom break, and I was talking to some of the guys, and a lot of them didn't finish in time. And I was so surprised, because I was like, I went through and did it again. And because I had that strategy. These guys, I asked them like, did you do the practice? And they didn't really practice before. So this was basically their first time. And it's pretty surprising how many people are unprepared, like how unprepared they are for it. And you get
They're okay
all,
with being unprepared. Okay.
yeah like they were nervous, and they were like distraught after the exam, but they did no practice. And it's like it's surprising to see people expected this to be easy. Like there were some people that literally couldn't speak for over a
Mm.
minute on any topic, and I was like, you're going to speak for like a 5-minute monologue on a topic that you've probably never heard of. So I mean, obviously, everyone's different, and like, but
Yeah.
surprising to see the level of like the variance in preparedness. But yeah, I was really happy with, and you can genuinely just judge your own how prepared you should, because even I never felt prepared enough, right? And I don't think you ever will. But if you
Mm.
can consistently do the practice tests and score the score you need to get consistently, I think you should have that confidence that, like, okay, no matter what happens, this is just another practice test and I can figure my way out of this. And so, yeah, having that confidence for sure. And really just being super focused with listening as well. Like, I remember I closed my eyes for every listening exercise and just like imagine writing all the words in my head, as this person spoke it. And so, yeah, I was hooked on every word, even reading. I was so focused, like I didn't even look at the people beside me. I was just focused on every single letter. I don't think I blinked that whole reading section. And then it came to writing. Writing was the last one. And I thought, you know what? I've done pretty well. All I have to do is like see this one safely through. And
Yeah.
the first couple writing tasks was pretty easy. But I think, yeah, that's the one thing I didn't practice like on that platform. I would always like practice on my phone, or like I was used to certain mediums, or I would write and then go back and like correct everything. Again, I feel like writing is something you can never get completely correct ever. Like you are
Yeah.
always gonna do a couple of small mistakes. But I think the anxiety of like I did like a whole week's worth of practice before the exam, especially with writing, and I would like get ChatGPT to like correct it, and it would always give me a B1 and say, you made too many mistakes. And so that anxiety really got to me when I was actually writing it. And so I second guessed every word that I put down, even words that I've written
Mm.
before. Like if I had a bit of hesitation, I would say, no, I shouldn't put that word down. Like I'm just doing myself a disservice if I'm putting a word that I know I'm unsure of, even though I'm like 90% sure. That 10% I'd be like, Josh, don't take the risk. Like just find a simpler word for it. Um, and yeah, I don't think I put enough practice into more complex tenses. And so yeah, I was kind of worried about making complex sentence structures with um, the tenses and stuff that I should have used. And so I did end up using them, but in very simple ways, where it's like I'm literally just using it for the sake of using it, and finding ways to put the complex sentence structures that I was comfortable with, that like conjugation that I have done in the past, even though they're not the most appropriate for the situation. I'd find a way to push them in because I'm confident with the spelling, with the conjugation, that kind of thing.
Can.
And so at the end of it, yeah, I mean, I went through like all three exercises and I would apply that same mindset to it. And I didn't feel good about it. And I would spend time like editing it. And like my main like thought process was, get at least 80% down, and then
Mm.
edit it, or at least once you have something on the page, then you can edit it. But if you're
Yeah.
make the thing in your head, you're not getting anything down. And yeah, that one I didn't manage my time well, because I had like half the time down and I only finished like less than a one and a half exercises, and obviously it gets harder, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
I have less than half the time for the hard stuff now. So yeah, then it was obviously once you start panicking and like you're racing against the clock, like, you make bad decisions, your thought process is messy. And so yeah, I started a spiral, I would say, during my
Mm.
writing. And in the end it was like, just get something on there, and I felt very shaky about the whole thing. Yeah, the language felt it was probably the simplest thing I've written in like 2 months, after like spending 2 months of trying to write more and more complex things every day. In the end, yeah, maybe it was a confidence thing. I keep wondering if I had tried to write a little bit more elegant, a little bit more sophisticated, would my points have been the same because I just make more mistakes, or would I have managed to have get the B2? So I'll never know that.
Yeah.
But it's a thought that constantly haunts me. But yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah,
but I think you were tired by the end of the day, so that would have contributed to that as well.
yeah. Because part of you just wants to be done with it. You're like, this one
Yeah.
I can't care as much anymore. Like I just want to be done. So yeah,
Hope the you are you get over it soon because you shouldn't be haunted with that. I can take your test. If you
Yeah. And like I got the score I needed. But part of me is like it's a little bit salty about the whole thing. Is like, oh, this could have been perfect, you know. So that's the one thing that like really bugs me, and the fact that I was only 1 point away. I feel like I had at least the knowledge to get
yeah
the level that I needed. I just wish I'd applied it a little bit more. But even then, it's like I was always aiming for B2, knowing that I didn't always need that. Or I was trying to aim for C1 to be honest, so that I'd land at B2 eventually. But yeah, writing was one thing that I delayed because to me everything else was so much harder. The listening was the big problem, or the writing, or sorry, the reading was the big problem. And I just I started to focus on writing towards the end, and that's when I realized, oh, actually writing is my big problem. But what can you learn from these things? So yeah.
so I had a question. You started practicing for writing in the end only.
Yeah, because to me it's like, oh, like writing is the easiest one. I have time,
Mm.
like from speaking I don't have time to speak. Like I have to figure out everything on the fly and like speak it. But with writing you have time to think, you have time to structure your ideas, you have time to conjugate, check, change, so I in my head writing seemed like the easiest thing to do. And yeah, I think I underestimated it for sure, as like,
And
yeah.
why did you never need like a B2?
Oh, I mean, I had enough points. So for me, I didn't need the full 75 points.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just needed like a couple points. In the end, I mean, it was kind of funny. I ended up getting my ITA before I ended up writing my test. So I genuinely was considering, do I even write my test now? But I had spent like almost a year practicing. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. So yeah, in the end, I didn't even need French, I guess, as a test. So B2 was more of like a personal thing. Like I wanted to get B2 for my own satisfaction. So
Right.
yeah, that's why I really didn't need it as such. Yeah.
Level for me in this. A new level for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so initially you had thought of French and taking the exam just for the purpose of getting more score.
Yeah,
But then you really didn't need it.
yeah, exactly. Because for me, I'm a big planner. I'm a big overthinker. So I started seeing how like scores were trending up, and
Mhm.
I thought, you know what? If I get there one day without French, great, sure. But I knew French was going to be hard, and so I wanted to give myself time. And so I thought, honestly, even if I have to take 2 years to study French, like I'll have the time, and I'm not scrambling. Because if I have the anxiety of the whole PR thing and the anxiety of French, and like I have to, finish it all within a certain tight timeline, then I knew like it would just be horrible. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to plan ahead and say, if I do need the French score, I have it. If I don't need it, fine. Like, at least I'm not scrambling at the end. So yeah, that was kind of my thought process.
Oh, so when you started, you knew that it might not be necessary, but I'll just do it just in case down the line, maybe 3 years later, I need it.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of my friends, because I tried convincing a bunch of my friends to join with me, and everyone's like, but you don't need to, like, you have time. So even if you need, like, even if you need to start, you can start later. So all of my friends were very against it, and I was the only one that was kind of like, no, I don't want to put myself in that spot. And the funny part is, after I gave it, I had maybe 6, 7 people come up to me and ask me like, oh, where did you do your classes? How did you do it? And like, so now everyone's starting, and now they've all left me alone, and they're all doing it together. So yeah,
So even if you did it and like now everyone is asking you for advice, but you're still alone.
yeah, exactly. But it's still kind of nice because I'm like, you know what? At least if you learn French, I'll have a reason to like use my French. Because yeah, at this point, I'm
And help
talking
you
literally.
practice.
Yeah, so at least if I have a friend who speaks French, then I'll have a reason to like pick it back up again and kind of
Mm.
use it. Yeah.
Nice. I know that you were in group study sessions for most of the time. What was the ups and downs of the group, and like what motivated you to take a group and not, one-on-one study with the teacher?
Right. I think probably the first thing would be price. I'm pretty sure one-on-one would be I didn't even look at the one-on-one option because I knew that would be more expensive. I mean, I tried doing this on my own initially, right? Because I was like, oh, it'd be cheaper if I like self-study it. So yeah, I tried finding the most economical solution, and that was group classes. And for me, I think I also liked group classes because well, okay, at least towards the end, or like towards B1, towards the B section, because yeah, I feel like at A everyone's, at different levels, and so me being one of the fewer people that already had French experience, I was like, like we're kind of just going over stuff. I'm pretty confident. I want to spend more time working on stuff that I'm weak at. So the downs of the group study session were in the beginning, it went a little bit too slow for me. And I kind of found myself getting a little bit distracted because we were going over like letters and pronunciation, which that part I'd already gotten down. So yeah, that was kind of the downs of the group session. But then the ups were definitely in the B1 and B2, especially at the end after B2, like the exam prep sessions. Everyone else I thought was like beyond where I was at that point. They were obviously doing the exam prep for longer than I had been doing, and so it was insanely helpful. I think that's probably one of the biggest contributors to like me doing so well in the exam, was watching how other people did it. And honestly, like oh my god, the first day, my jaw was on the floor. We were doing speaking, and yeah, like the teacher was just like picking people and saying, okay, start. This is your topic, start. And like no prep time, no like straight off the bat, and people were speaking so fluently, and it just like caught me really off guard. So I would do for every session, and at least in the beginning, she would always make me go last because I was the newest to the class, and so I would literally pick up on like what am I hearing constantly between all four people. It was like four people in the class, but also what is each person's style. Every day you come to class and you realize someone's saying the same thing the same way. That's their style. Like this is how they
Yeah.
open every topic, this is how they close every topic. In the middle, this is the same sentence I keep hearing. And so you hear that, and you don't have to take the same line, but you take the concept of the line. Like this is the idea of that line. This is a line used to compare two ideas. This is a line used to introduce a new topic. And you take the things you like, the concepts, the ideas you like, the structures, and yeah, you kind of put them into your own structure. And that's a big thing that really helped me, was even reading, right? Like we'd all put our messages in the group, and for me, yeah, to be able to see and compare, right? Because there were people like that had joined after me that would make the same mistakes I was making, and I said, okay, you know what, this is a certain misconception that I had, or like a certain mistake I would keep making. But I noticed like the sentence structure, for example, of this person versus me versus somebody else who had been doing it longer, and see the progression. And yeah, so that's something that really helped. Big up for the group classes.
That's great. What about your preparation? What were your study methods that helped you the most?
So for me, I basically had every day I would do almost an hour on each of the four skills, right? And so yeah, I would say the big thing that really changed for me was spending time on the hardest things first, and then yeah, basically going from in that order. So the most mental energy, the most concentration goes in the things you struggle with the most. And these don't have to be the same thing for the entire prep session, right? Like it changes because you get to a point where okay, you're like, in listening, I'm consistently getting a B2 score, so that's no longer a concern for me. Now let me switch priorities, and like focus on this topic that I'm not so strong in. So Yeah, that's one thing that really helped. This, yeah, and then if I have to talk about specific strategies for each thing, for listening, it has to be like the, using the website and the test prep website, and then just going through as many repetitions as you can. Yeah, at least one repetition a day if you can. I didn't always do it, but if I could, if I could change anything about my whole journey, it's that I would spend more time and try to do more of those. At least one listening and one reading. Yeah, that was my
every day.
every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, even if you don't finish it, at least you get through most of it. And yeah, that was the hardest part, was like just having the commitment doing that. But that's really the only practice you need for those two sections. For writing, I would spend a lot of time on creating templates, right? So for most of the idea, like you build around the idea with certain phrases, with certain openers and closers, and so you're really only filling in, like, the burger. If it's a burger, like if a burger, like you've got the top bun and the bottom bun, like you're just putting the filling in the middle now, and that's the only thing that changes. And so yeah, and then writing, you do have more time. So honestly, I wish I spent more time focusing on writing and just really solidifying that, because I was like, oh, that's easy, like I can do this. And then on the day of
Mm.
the exam, when you don't have Google Translate, when you don't have auto correction, it's a whole different feeling, a whole different ball game. And yeah, that's writing, I would say. And then what else is left?
Speaking.
Uh, Speaking. Oh yeah. Oh, speaking is probably the one I practiced the most. That was the one I was the most nervous about. And so introduction is very easy, right? Like there's not really too much that changes. Like you pretty much always give the same introduction. Obviously, it takes time to come up with a good, structure
Yeah.
to practice. But once you have, and it's like you can use Chat GPT, or when you do your exam prep, the teachers will kind of give you pointers. So once you have like a good set foundation of like, and I already had it written down, and so I would just kind of learn that. So introduction is fairly easy. Then the question and like retrieval of information, that second exercise, I would practice a lot in class. We would do that literally every other day, and so I got pretty used to that. The main thing is, my questions were always very simple, and I
Mm.
wish I had practiced a little bit more of the complicated, a little bit more varied question types. That's one thing I felt like was a little bit lacking. Uh, and then also expanding vocabulary. So one big thing that I did, that was like advice that was given to us, was to have a whole list of themes. So already on like a sheet, I have environment, and I have technology, society, human rights. And so every day when you're practicing, whether it's speaking or writing, uh, pick a theme, and that's the theme for the day. And then the next day you go to the next theme, and then so eventually you have, and then when you ask ChatGPT for like vocabulary for this theme, you'll get, and
Yeah.
you can get it from like A1 to B2, right? Or like even C1. So one thing I started doing was trying to practice C1 as much as I could, right? Like yes, also A1, A2, B1, B2, and then throw some C1 in there just to get an idea of what the level is. So for example, with my writing, right, I usually use ChatGPT. So I'd pick a topic, I'd write on that topic, and then I would take that, put it in a ChatGPT, ask it to give me a level, and then say,
Mm.
what would it look like if this was a C1 level, write out. And then it would show me it, and then I'd say, explain to me like what's different. What is really differentiating my writing from a C1 level to this one. And so it would tell you, the way you think of this, or your sentence structure, the sentence formation, the vocabulary. And so yeah, then you kind of have an idea of, oh, this is the same mistake I wrote last time. Like I used the same sentence structure last time. They told me to do this instead. So eventually, with enough repetition, it starts to become second nature. When you write something, you're like, oh yeah, no, they said it last time, that is too simple, so change it, make it what it was supposed to be. So repetition definitely for writing. And then what I would do is I'd take that same topic, literally whatever I wrote, and then I'd speak it, and that would be my
Okay.
speak. So because they're literally the same, there's not much that changes. Like conceptually, you could get the same question for writing, for the last writing topic that you get for the last speaking topic. So
Mm.
yeah, and then just generally the structure as well, it's not really very different, right? Like you're going to start with an introduction, three like points for, 1 point against, something like that, and then a conclusion. So that structure was really drilled into me because I would do the same thing for speaking and I'd do the same thing for writing. And then obviously when you're doing it, like, for example, when you speak it, you're not really thinking as much about accent, about conjugation, all of that stuff. So that really gets reinforced
Yeah.
when you write it. And so you've got, yeah, both. When you speak it, come up with the idea, and then you write it, you reinforce this like spelling and grammar and all of that stuff. So that's was my general practice.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you had a really structured practice, but that is good. And this is what a lot of students, even I, when I study, even I struggle with this because it is not easy to sit for all these hours. So that is good. So how did you work on your time and consistency? Because I know you've been working, and yeah, how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, I would say that was the hardest thing for me. I know some students would wake up in the morning and put in like 3 hours in the morning, and if that's what works for you, that's great, I would say. But my advice would probably be, I believe everyone has a certain type. Some people are like morning birds, some people are night owls. I'm a night owl, so for me that worked. I like right after work I would take a little bit of a break, and I think that's a very important thing I wish I did more of, was taking more breaks. Because to me, I would say 4 straight hours, and then jump straight into class. And without a doubt, at some point, even if you do it consistently for the first week or 2 weeks or whatever, at some point you will get burned out, and then once you get to that point, it's very hard to recover. Because I definitely got to that point, and you know, you just lose the motivation completely. Like you get annoyed when you start thinking about French and start reading French. Yeah, it just kind of takes you off. So I would say always keeping that balance, because you always do have time, at least in most people's cases, and that's why I intentionally thought ahead, because I didn't want to be at a point where I'm like I have no other choice but to spend the time. There were days where like, yeah, I genuinely thought, what, it's okay. I'm just thinking about like a certain memory I had now. I got to a point where I would spend so much time that I would like cancel social plans. I stopped going to the gym. I kind of stopped like dieting, and yeah, like at one point it kind of consumed me completely, because I got to a point where I was like every second has to be efficiently spent studying French and nothing else can come in the way. And so I did that for about a month, and it, yeah, I mean, I got pretty miserable. And you definitely get, yeah, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't want to use the word depressed, but like it definitely takes a very big, like, heavy emotional toll on you. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I definitely got to that point, and then it's like you take a complete U-turn. So for a bit, I just stopped studying at all. Like I went from putting in 4 or 5 hours a day to one point for like a week or two putting in literally 0 hours. I just could not bring myself to studying anymore. Um, and yeah, that was like obviously during like very close to exam season, and so that was a horrible time to do that. Um, but yeah, so I would say taking breaks,
Mm.
saying no to everything. Like, yeah, even if you can't do 4 hours a day, even if you do one, like something is better than nothing. And that's something I wish I told
Yeah.
myself. Because to me, it's like all or nothing. It got to a point where, like, yeah, if I'm not putting in 4 hours, then I might as well not put in any hours. And so yeah, that was something that took a lot of other people talk, like family talking to me and like friends talking to me and changing my mindset on that. But yeah, I kind of wish I had that from the beginning, where I shouldn't have gone so overboard. But it's like,
Yeah.
okay, obviously try your best. It's very difficult to find that balance, but yeah, especially when you've got work and when you know you've got time, make use of the extra time that you have. Don't push yourself so hard, because eventually, it doesn't seem like it, but eventually you will get there. And I think that's another thing that I was watching one of your old students' videos talking about it, and she said something of like, along the lines of, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I thought I was never going to be able to do it. And then eventually the exam day came and I was there and I could do it. And I remember watching that video when I was around that point of like kind of giving up and like not doing anymore. And so, yeah, that definitely helped to hear her say, like, she at one point, she was one of the students that was so lost and she felt so behind. But at the end of it, like, yeah, it was a complete 180. So I kept telling myself, it'll happen. Because I saw it happen with speaking, for example, right? Like, first couple of weeks of B1, complete wreck. Didn't think I was ever going to be able to speak. And then suddenly one class, I can speak now. With B2, like I didn't feel like I deserved to be in that level. I thought of like, staying back and repeating B1. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, I'm reading all the text, I'm listening to all the audios, and they all make sense now. It's very all of a sudden. And so I told myself that, I was like, this has happened in the past. You've thought this way, and then one day, suddenly everything's looking, the sun's looking a lot brighter. The grass is looking a lot greener. And so, yeah, kind of managed to convince myself, talk to myself like that, and get myself back on the track. And the main thing I would say is try to find a way to enjoy it, because obviously you're not, I mean, at least for most people, you're not enjoying a 9 to 5. So yeah, the least you can do is try to enjoy French. One way that I started doing that was, I would focus so I only watch shows when I eat. So every time I would eat, I would initially watch English shows, and then I was like, okay, you know what, I have to watch French shows. And then I watched French shows, but then I was like, oh, maybe I should watch educational stuff. So then I switched to like French educational YouTube videos. And so I was getting miserable, right? And I was like, I need to make this fun again. So then I started watching like this one show. I forget the name now, but it's like the French version of Friends. And I was like, I love Friends. Like, that's my
The one
favorite
on
show.
YouTube.
Yeah, the one on YouTube, exactly.
Yeah.
I started watching that, and then when I was doing reading, I got miserable of that as well. So then I started reading this ebook, Tintin in French. I used to read Tintin when I was a kid in English, so I knew I enjoyed it. So I started reading it in French. And there's this guy on YouTube who does like walkthroughs where he reads and then he explains. So I did that, and I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, I think a big difference for me was finding fun ways to bring language learning in. And then eventually you get to a point where now you're so proficient with the language that you just enjoy it, because now you can understand most things, you can communicate most things. So you no longer need it to be fun, because you're finding the joy in actually developing and learning harder things every day. Yeah, because at one point, learning harder things is the worst thing you can imagine, and you don't want it to get any harder. But then eventually you get to a point where now you can understand 80% of things. So in a way, I want to learn harder things because I'm capable now. So yeah.
That's nice. And so, what help did you get? So you made this fun for you, but I don't think that was during your exam prep.
No. That was a little bit before that. Exam prep was almost purely doing the website, like the exam prep website, and doing this chat GPT practice alone.
So, how, on this website of the mock tests and all, how much you said you did, like 2-3 hours every day. So, what impact did that make really? Like, helped a lot?
Yeah, definitely helped a lot. Number one, it's like you almost kind of get answers because it's the same questions that are being used. Not all of them, obviously, but it's a surprising amount. Like the amount of questions I did, where like I'm sitting in the exam hall, and put my headphones on, I play the recording. I hear the first couple of words, and then I start smiling because I already know what the answer is. So yeah, there were a surprising number of instances where that happened, and it gives you such a peace of mind when you're like, okay, I know the answer to this one. Like you don't even have to play the rest of the audio. Like I know the answer, so for a fact, okay, these are 20 points or 15 points that I've got for sure. So yeah, there were, and the funny part is I didn't do a lot, to be honest. I only did half of what probably should have done, but after going through the whole listening exercise, I was thinking about the fact that if I did everything, how many more of these would have been in that, So I only probably would have had like 10 new
Oh, you
questions.
didn't finish all 40 of them?
No, I probably only did like 15 or 20. I think I just about got to halfway. Yeah. So, because I tried to do, I had like 30 days approximately of pure exam prep. And so the first 10 days, or okay, the first like week, I wasn't very consistent. So I would do one day of listening, the next day I would do reading, and then kind of alternating. And so, yeah, I definitely lost ground on the first couple days. And then once in a while, like, yeah, I when I got that really tough period, and then yeah, some days I would like, if I had a birthday party or something like unmissable, I'd be like, you know what, it's not that serious. Like, what if I miss a day or two? It's not gonna make or break. As long as, you know, 80% of the time I am actually doing it. Yeah. And so that's why I wasn't as consistent. So I do wish, yeah, I was able to put in a little bit more time. And again, I kind of rushed it, right? Like I said, I gave myself a month deadline, because
Yeah.
like for me it was like a personal thing. Like I wanted to go back to school, I had to get my PR and a whole bunch of other things that I put my own personal deadline on. But if you have the time, I'd say, because most people in the exam prep were there for at least 2 months, at least, yeah, some were there for 3 months. So yeah, when you're doing pure exam prep, the time that you spend is very directly related to how good you get, and you see the progression very quickly, because it's very focused, right? So yeah, I would say if you can get through all of the exercises, like all of the mock tests and stuff, that would be the best thing. At least doing them once. I think some
Yeah.
people would do them twice, so that would be even better. But no, honestly, I got to a point where I was pretty confident. Like I was getting consistent B2s, C1s. Though, yeah, I touched C2 a couple times, So I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't feel the pressure to continue or have to do all the tests. If you're not getting those points, definitely keep putting in the time, keep putting in the effort until you get to a point where you're confident and consistent enough. But I wouldn't say that's a necessary kind of thing. Yeah.
No. I to recommend like at least 40 tests you should do once so that you're sure in the exam. Of
Yeah.
course, like every person has a different level, and their confidence level is different.
Yeah.
Like for you, you like I know, speaking was the toughest for you. But then in this call only, like you have mentioned differently that reading was the difficult, writing was the most difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, for sure.
so while preparing, is there anything that you would have done differently now that you're on the other end?
Yes, definitely. Um, Although I think even if I did this all over again, nothing would change. But yes, in hindsight, there are definitely things I wish I did differently. The number one thing I think would have made the biggest difference was spending the time early to really reinforce those basic concepts when they were still like being taught. I think I waited for too long after. Yeah, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, but I would kind of mess up, like basic verb conjugations of like fair and stuff when I was in B2. So sometimes, yeah, I would be like, oh, I really should have this down. I should have had this down 3 levels ago. And so, yeah, they're definitely, because especially when you start to conjugate more complex verbs and like they all start to blend together, so now you're like,
Yeah.
if you don't like solidify that, and obviously you like Brahmati ma'am told me, you told me, this is mentioned a lot of times where it's like, because the stuff will get really confusing if you don't solidify this now. And I thought what I did was enough at the time, but I really should have put in even more time and effort. um Not because that's hard stuff, but because once every other concept starts to get piled on top of it, it just all gets kind of mushed together.
Yeah.
And it's very important to take each concept as it is and really solidify that. And then because everything builds on it, everything, yeah, sort of added layers on top of each other. So unless that foundation is not strong, the building is not going to be stable. So yeah, that's one
Yes.
thing I wish I did differently.
And that is, I think, one mistake many I'd say 80% students do. They do not solidify their conjugations
Yeah,
right in the beginning when you have the time to work on conjugations. Later, you don't even have time to work on conjugations.
exactly.
So
And
then you have to, leave everything and then get to conjugations.
exactly. And I think I wish I spent more time because I mean the pressure only got to me around B2 and exam prep where I was writing every day, speaking every day. But those are things that would help immensely in even A1 and A2 if you could start there. And absolutely B1 and B2 is a must to speak outside of class, to write outside of class, and just get as many repetitions in as possible. Yeah, that's one
Yeah.
thing I wish I changed.
What are some ineffective study methods that you might have picked up that really didn't work out?
Ineffective. Hmm. Um, Honestly, it's very hard to say because I found every like any studying is probably effective. Like, sure, there are things that are maybe more effective and more efficient, but yeah, to be honest with you, I never felt like this was completely ineffective. Like, sure, there were times where maybe the Tintin stories. Yeah, I don't know how much I really gained from that or how much I actually learned. Or even the TV show, for example, like it was definitely entertaining. Did I actually get stuff from it? Did I learn stuff from it? It's tough to say. It's tough to say because I wasn't actively sitting and trying to learn. I was just genuinely like, absorbed in the TV show or absorbed in the comic. But then, yeah, I wouldn't say as long as you're putting in time, as long as you're being exposed to the language, even subconsciously, it does make a difference. Just immersing yourself. That's one thing when I would look at what are people advising, they would always say immerse yourself, immerse yourself. So yeah, I think as long as you're in contact with the language, as long as you're being exposed to it, yes, there are things that are more efficient, less efficient, but at the end of the day, if it's fun, like it is indirectly efficient or effective. Yeah,
Mm.
and you enjoy
Yeah,
it.
but I'd just like to mention here that, be caution, like maintain caution when you're doing that so as to not waste your time. Because it's one thing is to be, be connected with the language, but it's another thing to practice for the exam. So if
Yeah,
you're just a French learner, then it's all right. But yeah, if it's for the exam, then really practice for the
yeah,
exam.
for sure. But yeah, no, to be honest, didn't find anything outright ineffective. Yeah. Have
Okay.
you heard the students say any of their methods have been ineffective? I'd be
Well,
curious.
sometimes students tell me that they were reading some book, and that, I mean, that was okay, but it didn't really help them, and they were not able to concentrate on the book as well.
Okay,
So yeah.
I tried that. Yeah, I downloaded the Lipidi Pass, but I never actually
Mm.
read it. I read the first page, and I was like, okay, one page every night, and then after the second night, never happened again. So,
Right.
um, yeah.
Just in case, it is amazing. It really, makes you think about a
Okay.
lot of things. So yeah,
I still have
just
the
for
book.
some,
I still have the
yeah.
book. So,
And you don't
hopefully.
have to understand each and every word because when I was studying, at that point, I didn't understand a lot of it, but it's fine. You get the meaning of it. So
Okay,
yeah, but do read. It is, I highly recommend.
for sure. Yeah, I have the book now, so I have no excuse. And now it's
Yeah,
when you don't have that pressure of I need to study or learn. It's like okay, now I
yeah,
can really choose to just enjoy the French now. So yeah, I think
yes,
I definitely have
mm,
more of an inclination towards it because yeah, I have nothing to lose now. So yeah.
yes. Think there are any any actions that you do on your exam day that that students should avoid, or a mistake on the exam day that you should not make other
Yeah.
than French.
Okay. Yeah. it sounds a little bit funny, but I'd say watch what you eat and drink. You do not want to be uncomfortable. Yeah, like if you know, for example, drinking coffee on an empty stomach, is something that like upsets you. Don't do it. Stay away from anything that is going to make you uncomfortable. It sounds, like it's not really relevant, but on the day, like every little thing does matter. You want to put yourself in the best space for both your mind and your body, because you don't want anything else distracting you from what you're supposed to be doing on that day. It is a very long day. It's a very tiring day. You're going to be very mentally and physically exhausted at the end of it. And so yeah, spend some time thinking about, when are you going to eat, when are you going to drink, what are you going to do in between, uh, things like that. Because on the day off, yeah, it's going to be harder to make decisions on then. So I actually did think about, okay, in these 3 hours, what am I going to do? Am I going to study? Am I going to like, and obviously things change, right? Like I said, I was going to study for those 4 hours after my speaking was done. I really only maybe study for two, and then I spend the other two chatting with people there. But that's also important too. So yeah, I'd say have a plan for what you want to do, what you want to eat, what you want to drink, all of
Yeah.
that. But then also like, if there are people, like absolutely speak to other people. It really helps when you kind of share your nervous energy with other people. No one else is going in there confident. I didn't see one person that was like, oh, I'm going to ace this exam. Everyone was scared, everyone was nervous. We're all talking about study strategies and like, things you learn, things. And yeah, I kind of had my book open and was casually reading through it at the same time. So that's one thing. Oh, also, don't be stressed. So don't do anything that will stress you out. As in, don't show up late. Dress well. Like I woke up early. Like I made sure I slept early, even though I was very tempted to stay up and study. I said no. I'm gonna like the main thing is get full, like 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep if you have to. Be well rested. You do not, like, one of my biggest like problems is yawning. I yawn a lot when I'm
Yeah.
tired, and so you do not want to yawn when you're in like your speaking test, for example. You don't want a tired mind, especially when you spend a whole year learning French. Spending an extra couple of hours is not going to really change all that much, but having like an active, a fresh mind, that's more important. So getting a good amount of sleep for sure is the most important thing. Being very well rested, and yeah, even in the morning, I made sure I had plenty of time. I'm usually always rushing to things. I'm like, I've got like 10 minutes to throw on my clothes and get ready and leave the house. But on the day, I had plenty of time. I had already picked out my outfit the night before, ironed it, put on my perfume, did my hair, like, felt really good overall about yourself, like, feel really good about yourself. Put your best clothes on, your best perfume on, all your nice jewelry. And yeah, make sure you feel like $1 million. And you go in with that kind of confidence, and that when you feel good about yourself, you do good. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah. And that is a very good advice. I mean, even I keep telling the students to, sleep good, eat good, drink good before the exam day, at least one day before, so that
Yeah,
you are, physically in a good state to appear in the exam. And
exactly.
it is such a simple thing, yet,
Mhm.
most of us do not do it. So, yeah, this is something that we need to keep on repeating. Or
Yeah,
all the exam takers, and not just French. I think in general, even those the students who take the board exams, or whatever,
yeah.
really have to be okay mentally and physically, so that they can appear in the exam with a fresh mind.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one thing I learned from playing football. I would do a lot of tournaments and I would never get sleep the night before. So I'm already like yawning on the bus to the game. And I would not really care about what I eat and drink. So like mid
Mm.
game, my stomach is like cramping and I can't really run because I've got stitches. And so it's like I know I can play better. I know I'm a better player than this, but on the day of, like, the decisions you make affect how you show up. And so they should definitely not be an afterthought, because yeah, they do end up making quite a big difference overall.
It does. It does. Moving on to the last segment of this, I want to know about the role of LAFO, the whole team. your teachers in this whole journey?
Um, well, what can I say? I think that's the most important out of all the pieces. Is having a team that's obviously very well experienced. I knew that a lot of students, not just who want to learn French, but who specifically want to write the TCF or the TEF exam for these purposes. They've gone through, and uh, I think I really liked listening to all of the testimonials, all the stories from other students, which is why I'm so happy to give mine, because I know how much it made a difference to hear other students, to hear their advice. And yeah, I think just the fact that you've got so many different people from so many different backgrounds giving their opinions and advice. There's like a wealth of experience, a wealth of just knowledge overall about the whole process, about the exam. Even the teachers, especially, when you have very specific questions. I remember during an exam prep, we had a student that had just written her exam. And a week before the exam, that's when all the specifics questions started to come out of, like, oh, what is the order of the questions? How do they ask this? How do they ask that? And having someone literally, who finishes the exam, come and talk to the whole class and tell you this is step by step what happens. You go in, because nothing really caught me by surprise on the day of. Um, like, yes, it was a new experience, but it was stuff that I was expecting to happen anyways. Obviously, you're not going to know all the details, but when you have a general expectation of the format and you don't have surprises, then obviously you feel a lot more prepared for it. So yeah, definitely having the teachers that have that experience teaching these students, and then obviously the students as well, who share their experiences, definitely very beneficial. Also, the structure of La Foret, it was like the communication was always very clear, so there was not really like all I had to focus on was the French. Everything else, was very structured, very clear from the beginning. And yeah, I never really had any doubts about like the legitimacy of the teachers, the courses. So that gave me a lot of peace of mind, where I was like, okay, all I have to focus on is the French. And I think there's a lot of flexibility as well. Lots of batches. I think that's really nice. Lots of teachers. That was a pretty big bonus. I have no benchmark to compare it against, but to me, like, there's not much more you could ask for in terms of institute. So, yeah.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you so much. Tell me about the
Sorry about that.
every material, about the resources and the materials that were given to you. How helpful were they? And was do you think it would have made a difference if you didn't have those?
Yes, definitely. It would have made a big difference if I didn't have those materials, because I did try to do it without those materials, and I mean, it's a world of difference when you have so much structure and so much guidance. Yes, I could have made better use of the materials, but the materials were there, and it's never I never felt it fall short. I was never at that point where I was like, oh, I wish I had more material. It's like, yes, I wish I had more discipline to read more material, but all the material was there. There were, especially A1, A2, depending on the things that we would bring up and the concepts that we want to learn, we'd have like sort of custom things made for us as well, apart from the standard sort of documents and stuff. If we wanted to learn more about a specific topic, she would spend a day or two creating something and then uploading it. So it was obviously very easily referenceable. All of it was in one spot, so it was never difficult to find the materials, because that can be kind of a problem too, right? Where you only have enough motivation to look in one place. If you can't find it, then you're not bothered. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say being able to easily access everything definitely reduce the barriers to learning. And then yeah, obviously the textbooks, that was definitely a big help. We spent time on that every single day. So going through the text, going through the audios, definitely gave me a lot of exposure to the point where I felt comfortable, doing the exam prep, because I've done this, a lot of times in the past. So that foundation was definitely set up because of that. And yeah, in terms of the faculty as well, they were always available. When I had doubts, I reached out to all my teachers outside of class hours to be like, oh, I don't understand this, can you explain it to me? And I always got an answer within 24 hours. um, and even, yeah, the exam prep, when we were doing that, we would always get feedback. Yeah, very honest feedback as well, which I appreciated. So sometimes, tough to hear, but it's what you need
Yeah.
to hear. Um, and so which is why when I would get good feedback, it would feel extra good, because I know, this does not come easy. If I'm getting good feedback, it means I really deserve it. So yeah, that definitely made a big difference too, because I think I spent my first 2 weeks, every time I would speak, every time I would write, I would get some kind of do this better, do that better. So when I finally got no feedback, I felt like, wow, okay, that was, that was really good. So yeah, but obviously I got to that point because of all the instructions, all of the feedback, all of the advice. And when you hear someone point out mistakes and you hear the same mistakes over and over again, you realize within yourself what patterns you're kind of making and what patterns you need to break. So yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely helped as well.
That's great. There were two options, TEF and TCF. What made you select the TEF or TCF? Sorry.
um I'd say I was heavily influenced by the faculty, right? Like I asked you
Mm.
mainly, which exam is preferable, and both your recommendation and also my own research into the exam formats. That's what really made the biggest difference to me, because I knew going into like B2 what my strengths and weaknesses were. And so based on, the differences between the two, whichever, like I felt like the TCF favored my strengths more. And so I felt more confident picking that format. And so, yeah, that's eventually what kind of led me to pick the TCF.
Okay. Now that you've completed the exam, you have your ITA, etc. Oh, I want to know about where you are, but that's for later. Like any, what is your thought? About your whole experience. How do you feel right now?
Honestly, pretty, like I still struggle to believe it some days, because I have this like big like notebook that I used for French, but also for like my general life planning and all of that stuff. And so I use the back of it for French and the front of it for like life planning and all of that stuff. So I always
Okay.
happen to flick through some pages of French, when I'm opening it up, and all of the memories come rushing back. I mean, it's crazy to think it's only been like 2 months since I finished, or 3 months or something since I finished. It feels like forever. And it's honestly an overwhelming feeling every time I think about it, because genuinely it is, I would say, one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life. To think of the level of commitment is not easy. Not everyone can do it. And so, yeah, genuinely looking back on it, I'm very proud of myself for being able to go through that, and to be able to learn a language, because I can still remember me at the beginning and like how much I progressed to me at the end. I still am able to like read French nowadays, and actually understand certain things. I have a French colleague who, we chat in French a couple of times. And so, yeah, overall, just looking back, it makes me feel like if I had to learn a different language, if I had to learn Spanish, for example, or if I just had to learn anything in general, I've proven to myself that, I can put in the time, the effort, the dedication if I really have to. And so that gives me a certain level of self-confidence, certain level of self-esteem, that yeah, if push comes to shove, I can do these hard things. And I don't feel like there would ever have been a different instance where I would have put myself through something like this. So yeah, definitely very proud of myself.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm really proud of you for, doing this. I did not know that you were struggling this much because, when I was teaching you B1, B2, it didn't. looks so because you came to class, you were regular, and you were able to cope up. So I just, of course, it took some effort, but I didn't feel like you were struggling with it.
Yeah. Well, behind the scenes, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd finish every oh my god, yeah, there was some days where I'd finish class and I just feel so exhausted. And like certain classes,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd get a message. And some days were both like Rida and I specifically had like horrendous classes, and I'd message her and go, "So how was that?" And we'd kind of just be like, "I don't know what was happening today," and then we kind of like bond over it. So yeah, there were some classes, yeah, where genuinely we were so just taken aback by how difficult it was. Um,
Like what?
yeah, but obviously, yeah, for me, it was mainly just be able to show up every day, like no matter how
Yeah,
hard it gets. Because eventually, yeah, it will get easier and you just have to kind of put in the
exactly.
to get there.
Yeah, once you start skipping, then it's over because then you are letting yourself go.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because I think I was not there for 1 week. I was traveling, and so I missed out on a week of classes. I came back, and I was like, "Oh, it's just a week. Like, how much could have changed?" And I felt like I was starting my first class, that day when I came back. So yeah, taking a break was definitely out of the question, and I'm
mm,
glad, because there were times, when I'd finish a level and I'd say, why don't they give us breaks? Like it's exhausting. But I think it's probably designed in a way where, yeah, in the long term, it is more beneficial to continue having that momentum, because the moment you put your foot off the gas, it's very hard to like get back up to speed again.
yeah,
You have to kind of keep going.
yes. Well, I'm glad we finally got to, discuss this because this has been extremely motivating for me.
Yeah.
This was just something that I was planning, but it turned out so great. And I am very thankful to you for, sharing your story so honestly and so clearly. And
Thank you.
I would also like to mention here that you are a very good speaker. And I didn't realize this previously, which I'm just realizing. You speak very well.
Thank you. In
So,
English, yeah.
yeah,
In English, it's a lot easier. For sure.
yeah, we were only talking in French. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, stories like you remind me that it's not, learning is not just about your results because you didn't really need the results. It is about your patience and perseverance. So, yeah,
Yes.
it was also, your willingness to learn which really helped you grow. And now you have, come out of it with such, new strength,
Yeah.
like a Pokemon with extra extra skills. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and
So
honestly, I'm very
yeah,
grateful to all the teachers as well. Definitely felt like every teacher was personally invested in, like, even they want to see you get better and learn and grow. So yeah, because again, I tried doing it myself, right, on my own, and just didn't find like the motivation, the discipline to do it. But when you have a teacher or someone pushing you, guiding you, and then obviously I could tell, there were days where, if we didn't study or like read the chapter for that day, and then we weren't answering the questions, how disappointing it would be for you. And then it's like, oh, like,
mm,
you don't want to let the teacher down as well. So, that would kind of motivate me to, okay, make sure I'm reading the lesson every day and like
that's
coming.
sweet of you.
Yeah, for sure.
In today's world, yeah, that is rare but from the student side. So I'm glad you have such a student
For sure.
who is really focused.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it was nice.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much,
Yeah.
and I'll see you next time.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
You
Enjoy.
too. Bye.